and we've got a pretty active schedule, and we got a lot of turning to do, and thank you. You came over, about 3 weeks ago, I guess, and got a lay of the land, and he decided we're not all evil, so therefore spread the word for you all to come. And we appreciate the fact that you're going to photograph. There is some Milky Ways, I think, or something that's there. Joe hasn't eaten them. And you have to forgive me for coming like this, but I'm in the middle of a move, and I have two gentlemen here from Indian Land High School, which we as a club support quite a bit. We think they're a terrific group of young men and women, and so a lot of our guys and gals go over there and turn and work on their equipment, and we try to provide them with equipment, sort of as a way to support the local school system. So with that, I'd like to ask Tom, I think you're next. Again, welcome, and thank you so much for coming. Thanks.
Glad to be here.
Probably about 4 years ago, we had a member, Mel Wiener, who has passed, but he built a relationship with the Indian Land High School that is still going today. He went up there and he started making stack tables with them, Lazy Susans, and a number of our members were with him doing this. Boxes, Rob Johns was very active in making boxes with them. And Joan McCord, which is the wife of one of our first presidents, she started teaching pins. In fact, she taught me how to turn pins. And she started something at the school, and we have continued that ever since. We have 2 classes a year. In fact, we have one coming up April the 28th, which will have 72 kids. And we'll do them one-on-one from beginning to end. And we have acrylic and we have wood. The underclassmen, freshmen, sophomores will be doing the wood, and the upperclassmen will be doing the acrylic. We absolutely love doing it. We love being with the young people. That
Zach would probably be doing the acrylic because he's in his senior year.
Yeah.
And Garrett's a sophomore, so he'd probably be doing the wood with you.
Yes, I would imagine. And by the way, anybody, we hate just making it all walnut and all maple. So anybody that's got any exotic wood, all you need is a piece 5 inches, 3/4 by 3/4, and we can make a pin from it. So any exotic wood you got, give them to me, and I'll make sure that it gets to is fixed up for the school. We actually prepare the pin for them, prepare the blanks, glue in the tubes, and all this kind of stuff. We have been doing that, like I said, 3 to 4 years, and we enjoy it immensely. Some of the kids have even told us that that's the only reason they take shop is to make a pin. And that makes our heart glow a little bit. We will go in on Monday, and Monday through Tuesday, usually, by the end of Tuesday, the 3:30 class, when it's over, we have completed all the pins. But this time we have 72 kids. We only had 60 the last time, I think. So we may go a little bit into Wednesday. But it doesn't matter, whatever it takes. And then Thursday or Friday, 2 of the members from the club, Pat McCord and Lyle Pike, will be there to judge the pins. And usually the president will come along and be there to hand out certificates. And we give a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place winner from each class. There's 3 classes. So, I guess that's about it on the pins. We have ongoing classes there I know Rob Johns is going to be teaching them to make the boxes again, using the different types of joints and so forth. We have a team up there doing robotics, which is a whole new thing, but we've got a team that's working with the kids up there doing that, and it's very exciting for them. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. During Jeff Dusick's year that he was president, we purchased a saw stop for the Indian Land High School. Up to then, he was not letting the kids use the table saw very much. They were using the bandsaw, but not the table saw. But now I think they freely use both. And you know, as far as I know, everything's working well with it. We're getting ready to also take a maintenance team up there and help them with maintenance because this teacher's up to his ears in alligators up there. You know, he's always behind. So he could use some people helping with maintenance on the machines, and we're going to put a team together to do that too. I am pretty much the liaison between here and the schools. You might have figured that out. Lancaster Children's Home. The lady that runs that, her name escapes me right now, but she told me when we went down there the first time that hardly anyone in all of Lancaster reached out to help them, you know. But once Sun City came in, she got a whole bevy of help, you know, which is really great. We have all kinds of people going down there from Sun City. One guy supplies computers to them, Roger Sumi. There's a number of women that go down there and help. You have a girls' home and a boys' home. And these are mostly abused kids, is what they were. So really, they could just take a little bit of tender loving, you know. And so we do what we can. 3 years ago, I was president of the club here, and I was down there with Roger Sumi. Actually, he was making the presentation, and I noticed that their sign really, really looked bad. It was very small. You couldn't read it, and it looked like it was totally falling apart. So I took Bob LeClaire over here and Bill Diana, and I went down there, and we decided that we needed to replace that sign. And that was, I think, December 2011 or so it was. We told them about it. And the problem was that the land that the sign was on did not belong to them. It belonged to somebody else, and they, in turn, couldn't work out a deal for the. But the good story is that I had made a statement. I said, well, look, all we're doing is replacing a sign in the same place where it was, and it's going to look better than what was there, so what's the problem, you know? So they decided to go along with that idea. And we just recently put up a sign. It was it January, Bob? And it was 27 degrees out there putting up a sign, and we made a good decision to let the people that made the sign put it up because we weren't going to be out there digging at 27 degrees. But that worked out well. We supplied the sign for them. If you go down that way, it's off of, who knows, it's Route 9, I believe, down there. And then it's one street off of Route 9. But if you look at Lancaster Children's Home, you'll see it in the directory. And it's very worthwhile getting involved in down there. Those people really appreciate it. What else do we have? Anything that I'm missing on? And we have had a number of other things going on from here to the Lancaster Children's Home. Tony May, which is one of our members that recently passed away, he and others were down there building shelves for the computers. And I think, Bill, weren't you down there doing shelves? Or what else were you doing?
We just making boxes to hide all the wiring so they couldn't get out and plug all the wiring.
But we have reached out to them, and, you know, if they need help, they'll call us. We had a project at the Indian Land Elementary School. What was that, 2 years ago? The shelves? Lady called me up. Well, it must have been 3 years ago because I was president then. She called me up and said, is there any chance you might consider making a couple shelves for us? And I said, well, let me come up and I'll bring a couple people with me and you show me what you want. Well, it wound up that we made 11 shelving units for them, 5 foot tall, 4 feet wide, that were freestanding, and they were made of beautiful wood. And it just, you can see making 11 shelves, what it would take up in this shop. We sort of monopolized the shop for a long period of time. But we took it up there, and I told her, in fact, there's a award hanging up right in between these two windows. It's the Good Buddy Award or something. That's from Indian Land Elementary. But I told the lady that we made it for, I said, now, anybody asked you, we're out of the shelf making business. We don't do this anymore. but we really enjoyed it. It was a good project. I know we've had other projects within the community. Of course, we do things for the community here. In fact, right there in the dog park, they have these bags that you need to pull. I think, Bob, you made that apparatus over there, didn't you? That is some PVC pipe and put bags in the top and pull them out on the bottom. So little pooper scoopers or whatever they are, you know. But we've done a number of things here in the community, and they keep calling on us, and we keep making. But it's good. Anybody think of anything that we've done that I've missed?
Fire company.
Huh?
Fire company.
Oh, yeah. We made a nice sign for them over there. We've made some nice
And plaques.
plaques for certificates.
Children's Detention Home. It's not the same as a children's home. It's a different one. We've done floor cleaning, painting, fixing doors and drawers and stuff.
I'm not even aware of that one.
3.5, 4 years ago.
Uh-huh. But we've been involved. We've been involved, and we like being involved. But that's about it. Any questions? Very good. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Daniel, president for Waxhaw Woodturners, and I'm here to do a video presentation later after the supper. And anyway, so Joe mentioned this workplace last time and last year or so, and then it came to mind this year when I was thinking about a workshop to do. So I thought I'd get these folks to show us how to do something new, or teach us something that we don't know.
Yeah, you're very qualified, Joe.
So I hope it turns out to be a good time. I'm a bit nervous. And I hope to record most of this.
Tell us a little bit about how your members, how they live out. It's unlike our club, we just all come here. Your people are scattered around, and then they come in once a month. Everybody has their own shops, at home, and a little different setup than what we do here.
Pretty much said it. So the first Tuesday of every month, most every month, we try and meet. If we have a workshop, like today's workshop, we won't meet in April. But it's the first Tuesday of every month, so about 6:30 starts the quote-unquote business meeting. And then about 7 starts the demo, and try and get people local here, or some more professional, not more professional, but people that how do I say that? More advanced. Thank you. Skilled. But I think that everyone in our club has skills more than I do. So I always try and learn something new from folks, whether they're older than me or younger than I am. I make mistakes, so. So anyways, and I also do the video recording and editing for our club. Since last 2012 November, I've been doing that. And if you miss a meeting, hopefully gets posted up on the web. I haven't done the last 2 videos, and you'll understand when I give you the video presentation why. So that's all I have to say.
How many members?
I'd say roughly 30 that are on membership, 25 to 30 on membership, but maybe 15 of them show up. So any questions? All right, let's get on with the show.
Thank you, Daniel.
Who's up next?
By the way, you don't have to be a member to come out. So
Oh, yeah.
if anybody wants to come out.
Wally Drexler, he's one of our older members here. Wally's just a young fellow, but he's going to demonstrate cutting flutes on the lathe. And enjoy.
Okay.
I turned this a couple of days ago when I was in the stockade and got this couple of walnut logs. we have an open area out here with the dumpster, and there's a lot of space. We have shelving beside, and we're going to have some more shelving behind that. So we can keep things out there under roof, but still, they draw down. Your EMC around here is around 10, 11%. A day like today, it's probably 18%. But in any case, you can see it's still cracked. I had it wrapped up in craft paper and taped shut. It was quite moist when I brought it in. So, I was trying to get down below the sapwood. That was a problem. If you get down into the heartwood, it's a little less likely to crack because most of your moisture is absorbed in the bark and within sapwood. This setup is very, very simple. Let me work backwards. This is just a little laminate router, trim router, mini router, whatever different people may call it. And what we have on here is can somebody hand me that red, maroon, and clear package all by itself? Empty. Thank you. Thank you. It's a white side radius cutter, 1/8 inch radius, 1/4 inch shank, which you have to for the little router. 1 1/8 large. Anyhow, 1/8 radius, that's the key. And so what this is going to do is just simply make a round flute, within the wood. And since the cutting itself is extremely simple and very fast, I'm going to talk more about the setup. And this is just a Rube Goldberg system. I thought I'd better go and see how other people are doing it. And I found one guy does it exactly like this, except he uses the banjo tool rest base for blocking off the wood. All I've done is just taken chunks of wood and put it in here, because what I'm going to simulate is cutting flutes on this half, which would be one dimension, and then a slightly different dimension on this half. Now, if you're doing through flutes on the whole thing, like a long spindle flute, then what you have to do is have an extension here or have waste wood at each end, so this gadget has enough room to get to each end. Okay. Let me take a clamp. I've got a quick clamp on here. Well, let me show you this before I lose it. There's an index wheel over here that I attached. This is my old lathe that I donated to the shop. Shortly after I had it, there was a wheel handle wheel, whatever it was. And I took it off and put this index wheel on instead. And I think it's about a 12 or 16 thread little gadget. And believe it or not, this is still here from 1998. I can't believe. And I just got standard thread, so I just went to Lowe's and got an extra bolt, but I've never needed it. Let me put this back in the thread so I don't lose it. Now, ordinarily you're using an index wheel for putting things around a circle, right? So instead, today we want it fixed. So what you can do, oftentimes when I'm doing a lot of work, I'll just use a scratch awl. It's roughly the same size, and just stick it in. It's a lot easier because threading and unthreading this thing is kind of a pain when you want to do a lot of marks, a lot of drilling, whatever you're decorating around the circumference of the wood. So have the clamp off, and this is just jury rig. I want to show you this because you can do this in a horizontal fashion instead of vertical and use a lot more bits. But with this one, this is a specialized bit, bearing top and bottom, so it's self-controlling. It has an automatic depth control. So all you do is just rub the bearings against the wood, and then you've got a nice deep flute of approximately 1/8 inch radius. And I drilled some holes in the bottom in case you want to try this with your laminate router here and here, and I had to put grooves in so the air, can move along through there. So that's pretty important. And because some of the pieces were rubbing the wood, I cut this out a little bit. Nothing really spectacular, just messing around until it works for you. This is a differential shape on here, so it goes in a certain way and does not rotate any essential amount. And again, because this is a circular cutting, it doesn't matter if the router moves a little bit. If you're doing an in-stop cutting or something like that, then it would matter. So very, very simple. Just put this back in, clamp it tight so that it doesn't go anywhere in particular. And that's really all there is to the setup. And the face on either side is your stop. So I put a little block on this end because I don't want to go quite to the end of the wood. So I'm going to stop about 1.5 inches from the end here. I'm going to go to approximately the middle, just shy of the middle on this end with the blocks I've laid in here. Again, you could use a tool rest base. You could even make a little, who made that jig? Bob, I think you around here. We made a jig for doing, remember it's like a channel cutter, Rob. And remember it's adjustable sideways in and out. We could use it for sign making. We also use it for making slot cutting on drawers. Who did that? Anyhow, all you do is overlap two pieces of wood that are cut out, and then put yourself a T-nut, in a knob so you can adjust it in and out. Well, you could do the same thing here. Make an adjustable frame that would give you the stop distance you want on each side. Not a whole lot here. I'm just clamping down a piece of MDF 1/2 inch because that works very nice for the height of this gadget. I can lower this just a little bit. I have it up maybe 3/8 of an inch right now. So I can go to 3/4 inch MDF, which is better. And what I want to do is countersink a little head for a bowl and put in, put a little bar underneath the ways, and then come up from below with the countersunk carriage bowl on top. And then you can clamp it right on the waist. It's much more efficient, much more steady. And this way, there's a possibility this backside could come up. And it does, in fact, a little bit. So I have to be a little careful. So there's a ways to go. Rube Goldberg, as I said, what I've gotten so far. And it's very easy to use once you get it set up. It's very, very simple. You have your stop here and your stop here. And in between, you just go zip, and you're all done. What's a little awkward, I don't like what the switch is on this particular setup. But, being careful, it's a small cutting bit. Probably wouldn't make too big a hole if it got out of control. Let's see, okay, we're already plugged in. So let me just so this is really a freewheeling job, just moving all around on here. Of course, because it's going counterclockwise, we've got to go right to left. Okay? That's it. I mean, that's a procedure. So you can do anything multiples of 15 degrees, I believe, is the index wheel. I think there's 24, so 24 and 30, 360, I think is 15 degrees. So you can do 15 degrees or multiple thereof, 15, 30, 45, whatever you feel like, up to 90 degrees. And when you're doing through, for example, one of the ornaments I like to do is a fairly large, maybe 2.5 inches or so, that I bore out. And you can either do it on the drill press, but the problem with a drill press is, unless you're really careful, it's easier to overpower a piece of wood and smash the wood, quite frankly. But imagine taking a rounded, ellipsoid ornament, lay it sideways. We can do the same thing on here by rotating 90 degrees. You drill one set. I have a post with a hole in it, and you can drill through and so forth. You can put a Forstner bit in there, of course, attached to it. Looks like it was an old horseshoe thing. I've got a couple of holes drilled in here. And you can just put this in your tool rest. This is a 1 inch diameter, so it works on most, but this is 1 1/8, doesn't work on this lathe. And then you can put a Forstner adapter on here, and you can bore through any size hole in an ornament. So you have a 2 inch ornament, you bore a 1 3/4 inch hole, rotate it 90 degrees, and do it again, and you've got essentially a 90% hollow ornament. It's very, very simple to use. Again, using the index wheel principle.
What are the other uses of making flutes? What else would you? And I guess on table legs or chair legs, you'd want those fluted. You showed us how to do something. I don't know what the hell you do with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just now realized what you're asking me. Mostly these are used on large spindles, and for example, a stair rail, chair legs, things of that, smaller ones. This is huge. And if anybody wants to try it, I turned a piece of cedar just to give you a feel that you can do convex, concave. It doesn't matter because you're following the immediate surface wherever that contact is. It's real easy to do. And another kind of thing, I like to do inlays, and I also like to do mineral infillings, which this is. This is probably, what's the stuff that comes liquid and it already has a suspension? Inlays, thank you. Anyhow, that's what I've done. I've got, of course, got to grind this down and so forth. But when you have a circuitous design, the natural design usually is not straight. Well, if you do straight flutes across there and then filled out with a different color, like I have some beak, which is kind of a burgundy color, you can get some neat cross characteristic. And of course, it's nice if you do a continuous pattern in a small piece like this. It just has a little more style to it than rather than just doing a little here and a little there, unless you're one of those really far-out turners like you see at the National Convention. Something like this, Jeff, would look really nice with some small flutes. And you can buy different size bits. I can't tell you right offhand. This is white side. I assume there's a 16th, which would be really nice for ornaments and something like this. I'm sure there's a 1/4 inch, which is pretty standard. Beyond that, I just don't know. But if you do, I wanted to say about that, you can, I'd like to build a jig so that you can use not just vertical, but horizontal. You could do faceplate work, for example, or you could use some of the bits. I laid some out over here. Anything that doesn't have a bearing on top or any sort of a guide to it, as long as it's a bare bit, just a straight bit that you can use for plunging, for example. Or if you do like a bull nose or a round nose or a V bit, any of those will work on this idea. So you can make a V-shaped flute, you can make a rounded flute, you can make an asymmetric flute if you want to. It is possible to do that just by angling your router. Well, that's enough hot air. You have any questions? You're welcome.
And you got to be pretty quick at doing this. When we first started doing them, like say down in Waxhaw, we'd have kids backed up. We'd have a couple of lathes, kids backed up all day long. Up in Concord, when I started doing this, we'd have 2 lathes, kids backed up from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock when the show would quit. And 2 years in a row, I burned up a lathe. So, I mean, we just non-stop made tops. And but it's a hoot watching the little faces light up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But this is, I'm going to show you the way I do them. Start out with square stock. You want to make it round. Whatever way at the time that I want to make it round, I make it round. Then start giving it some shape. You just want to get rid of some wood. Like I say, you can't sit and diddle-dally around because you're going to have a line of kids waiting for this stuff. I do this so it has a good point. If it doesn't have a good point, it's not going to run right. Then I'll make some design on it. This will make sense in a little bit. Then we'll ask the kids to pick 2 colors. And this always all strikes them. At least.
They have to.
This is maple. We generally use poplar because the finish is pretty nice, and it also is not as rough on your tools.
How about yellow and blue?
Dark blue. And the kids, it's funny, sometimes it takes them longer to pick a color than it does
I
to
know,
you.
it does.
And it's another fast one. This is for the ladies. So, in fact, I only got one thing for guys. Top, I'll tell him if you and your big sister stay here a little bit, I'll make her something. A little over 2,000 RPM.
Ron, if I may, I just want to talk to our own wood turners here. One of the biggest enemies of the wood turning is slow speed.
Yeah.
Some of you turn at 300-400, and you can see what Ron's doing. It just makes the turning so much easier.
This is a little over 2,000. 2,300. Yeah, unless I'm doing a big out of balance thing, I don't even put it in low gear. It's a 2-speed lathe. I did a threading demonstration up in Waxhaw. I thread the slowest there by hand, and I've been threading at that at 900 RPM. The demonstration I didn't, because you don't want things going wrong.
That's when things always go wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That becomes embarrassing. Yeah, the best phrase is if it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong at a demonstration.
Ron, you're an AAW member, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. You may remember David Ellsworth, your first president of AAW. He likes to do a demonstration of a very small opening and then turn internal turnings, closed in one demonstration at a national meeting, he blew like 3 bowls in a row. So, it happens when you do delicate things,
Yeah. It's like hiring. If you don't do it right, it can
Winds up in
survive
the
the
wall.
kill.
Yeah, stuff happens. So this is another project I started doing. I actually got this idea from Pfau, and then kind of modified it. I'll finish it, and then you can look at it, and I'll tell you what I do. This is another girly project. And this is just I'm clearing out some brush out of my backyard. This is stuff that I cut just a couple of days ago. And to do this, you need to have green wood. If it's not good, green, it won't fold over.
She has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You create these little projects?
No, I steal them from other people. Yeah. We're always looking for small projects, fast projects, because people will sit and watch that and they become awestruck. And like I say, if you sit there and do a big bowl, they're not going to watch. It's a flower. I started doing those, I don't know, a few years ago, and tried to come up with all kinds of ways to color them. We tried some stuff, and then I was going to airbrush them with an airbrush. So I went into Harbor Freight with a friend of mine, and I've got a couple of airbrushes already. And the cheapest airbrush, and I didn't need a double action airbrush if you're familiar with airbrushing, but I'd have used it. But their cheapest airbrush was $10, and 5 or 6 little bottles with it in a single action. I thought, that's what I need just to get some paint on. It creates a mess, but I started spray painting them while they're running, and people don't know what they are until you turn it off. And when you turn it off and cut it off, it looks like a flower. And the first ones I did was in a place called Boss Gristmill up near Concord. And I gave it to a lady, and we put perfume in the paint. And she had bees following her around trying to land on it. And this one is just another one. It depends on what the wood's like. Is how it's going to work. But again, I need to use something that's reasonably green. And you're doing a lot of stuff that you practice not to do when you're wood turning. This is things you don't want to happen. But you can live with it if you do this. And we'd spray paint these green, of course.
Oh, Merry Christmas. Oh, how unusual.
And somebody come along. You want to do something different. If you do this all day long, you get to where you can make this stuff pretty good. This is going to be dry, and I try to keep, it's a pen blank actually. I'll keep stuff around. You get a guy who's there, you know he doesn't want a top, he doesn't want a flower. So I ask him, do you golf? If they golf, I'll make it.
Penturners. Notice how he's using that skew. That's the way he uses skew. That was a street.
Oh, yeah. You use the skew right, you don't have to sand much. Now, if I can't find if he's not a golfer and he doesn't want a flower, do this. This one's a toothpick with a captive ring.
Because anybody can use a regular.
This is just a piece of pear. As you can see, it's really not very straight. It doesn't have to be. I'm going to make it round. And very often, I'll look for the center, lay it out. This is big enough that when I finish, it's not going to matter. I just wanted enough to drive it.
Wow.
That's actually my favorite roughing tool. Yeah, I would generally sand these, oil them or wax them. I would sand it down, or close it down. I would sand that and sand that, oil it. Honey dipper. Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you left-handed or right-handed, Roland?
Pardon?
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
That's I'm right here. I can't throw either way. Any questions? That's what we do a lot of.
Thank you. We're gonna get one of those big tools. And we can see some real serious damage here. Like Joe said, you know, you can use about every tool in your shop. The turners guys, you know, this is a turning meeting, but that's kind of the finale to get down to where you're turning on a lathe. And boy, I'm an electrician and a shoemaker, and I just had a lot of fun doing this. And the only part that you might say that like he's got so much talent in what he's doing. He did get to a point where I tried inlaying. Otherwise, it's pretty just a basic piece of wood. I'd like to show you quickly. Jig for the router. You know, there's an awful lot of work goes into it before it goes on the lathe. And this is a jig to hold the piece of wood. It's 3/4 by 1.5 by about 24 inches, 2 pieces. And you route it out, the router to whatever size. This happens to be a 7/8 router bit. And then 2 pieces go together after you fashion what you might call the whistle or the part that makes the noise. And the air goes in here, and the block is right in the middle of this section. So the air comes up and goes through a little slot in the top of the flute. And this is like what makes the noise as it goes through here. And so many steps, the tuning part is kind of interesting too. It seems like what I've learned, the thinner the wall, the more you turn it down, the thinner it is, the more vibration that the flute has. We start out, this one happens to be eucalyptus, it's one that I made a long time ago, but it's pretty thick. And the thinner it is, it seems like it has an effect on the sound. But these holes are tuned. This happens to be an F-sharp flute. And how you get it to be an F-sharp is with a tuner. After it's all pretty much done, the length of the thing determines the note that you get out of this flute. And the shorter you make it, the higher the note. Once you get it to whatever you want, and this happens to be an F-sharp, then you start working on holes and enlarge the holes with a tuner till you get the next note. And this is an F-sharp, A, B, C-sharp, E, and F-sharp again. This just, I don't understand all of that, but I know how to do it. It's a fun project, and there's very little turning to it to a certain degree, but an awful lot of other stuff that makes it fun to do and learn all of the machines that you can use. So I'll leave them here, and you guys can mess with them if you want, or try somebody that knows how to play an instrument. But the Native American Indian Center in Lancaster, Lynn told me about it last year. They have a flute festival once a year that people come from all over the place to play these things, and they're all kinds of. Some of them that I saw there was a stick, and it still had the branches coming off of the stick, and the guy is playing this thing, fantastic, you know. So it's a kind of not just for turning, but turning's involved. So that's why Joe thought it'd be nice for you to see.
I got part of a program on TV about 2 weeks ago. I don't remember what channel it was or what they called it, but they had this guy. He was some kind of a Native American, big fat guy, and he was making those things.
Is that right?
And looked just like yours. And he was showing how the holes were different sizes to get the notes.
It's strange that
He showed how he tunes them. He used a file like a jeweler.
right.
Half-round file.
I can see that. I don't know why, but now these holes are much larger to get to the right note. And
and they're not spaced the same.
No.
He was showing how he had a jig that he used.
Yeah, a jig. Yeah. Well, the instructions that we got shows a certain distance apart. I moved them It's straight. It's a fun thing and something that you can do, especially if the kids have musically inclined, because there's music for this. There's a website on the computer, flutetree.com, and there's probably 500 songs with the description, and not just the notes, because I couldn't read a note anyhow. And it shows the flute, and if you hold this here and this here, and you can actually play it by following the instructions on that sheet. And we've had a couple of Native American flute CDs, and then you can put them on, and boy, is it nice to listen. That's all I have to say, Joe. Thank you. Anyway, but I'm going to show you how to prep wood to do a Celtic knot. These things are really good embellishments for just about anything. Put them on pens or just about anything you want. It's just I've been online and I've looked at all different ways of preparing them, and there's got to be 100 different ways of doing it. This, by the way, is a very basic Celtic, but it's a good place to start. You have to build a jig for cutting and gluing. This is a jig, it's a perfect 90 degree here. You start out with a square piece of wood. No matter what you're going to make it out of, it's got to be perfectly square, because you're going to rotate this guy, so it's got to be square. And I'm setting this one here at 30 degrees, so these will all be a 30 degree cut. These are the inserts. This one here, I've got some Duke and Yellow Heart, I think. And what I'm going to do is glue them on here, put this guy back together, then I'm going to take it over to the chop saw, and I'm going to cut another and do the same thing. We'll do this 4 times, and then we'll turn it. And it should come out real nice. And it's got to be perfect. If you don't line it up perfectly, it will not work. I use medium CA and accelerator. Put a good coat of medium CA on it. And you got to realize you're going to be turning this down, so it don't have to be perfect. Put a little accelerator on this piece. Very gently put it in place. Okay, now we're going to put some CA on this. Spray this guy. And that's what this jig is for now. Put this on here, bring it in so it's perfectly square. And on the chop saw I have a jig over there that is set to this distance right here, so I'm just going to put it in here and make another cut.
Amazing the designs you can get doing that, especially when you start turning it and making it round and straight lines become curves.
Oh yeah, there's a million ways of doing Celtic knots.
It's a lot of work for a pen.
Yeah, it is, but it's fun.
Makes sense to cut your inserts slightly smaller, though, just so you don't overlap the edge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first one I made them larger, then I tried to shave them down, and it actually messed up.
Yeah.
Now there is another method for cutting Celtic knots where you only cut 3/4 of the way
I
through.
tried that, but the problem is unless you're your cut and your insert
They
are
have to be spot
identical.
on.
Yeah, and then plus you have no room for I've tried that,
Yeah.
and I found I had a lot of voids.
Okay.
So I find that this way here works the best for me, but everybody does it differently.
You find the CA works okay on that size, like the wine glass?
Yeah, that's what I used on that as well. If you use a medium CA, you put plenty on it, you have time for it to do it.
Oh, and that's why your board is notched in the bottom
Yeah.
and the back.
Yeah, so that it'll run out and get underneath it.
Good jig. That's good for
The
accelerator works.
Small accelerator.
Where it ran down the side.
It's best to wear gloves when you do this. But anyway, I'll put this in the lathe and we'll turn it down and let you see what it looks like. And it's very critical that you really center this on the lathe. If you don't, it won't be centered. So draw a little.
It's right, Joe. Don't you believe in hallucinogenic Celtic knots?
Those are known as Jameson's nuts.
Is that I need to drink some Jameson before I do this? Huh? I could do that.
Super rough and gouge,
Yeah, where's that little roughy gouge? Ways to go. But that's there's a few voids in it because I really rushed it. But basically, that's a Celtic knot and how to do it. And, they're fun to do. You can embellish a lot of things with it.
All right, we're ready to go.
You!
Then let's do it. What I'm going to do is to talk about turning a sphere. There are a number of different ways to turn a sphere. And one of the first things you'll ask yourself is, why turn one? Well, if you take and hold the vessel by the neck, it's a sphere. And if it's a sphere, it's almost impossible to screw up the shape. So you can turn one and make a small vessel out of it. Or if you like to turn small ones, you can make a small box. It actually does come apart. It is a box. And the ring is captive and loose. And it's probably as worthless as anything you could think of, but it's a great gee whiz feature. And if I've got enough time left over before pizza shows up or anything else, we'll also turn a scoop. Now, as I say, there are several ways to turn a sphere. Probably one of the easiest ones is to cut notches at 15-degree angles, and then all you have to do is just take a spindle gouge, run down, and connect the dots here and here and here. When you get done, you've got a sphere. Which probably brings me to the next question. How do you know where to cut your notches? I have some handouts for you. And they will give you some mathematical points that you can create any size sphere, and it will let you pick up the points that you want to turn. There's also another way to turn a sphere, and that's to use a caliper. And then with the caliper, you make various and sundry marks, connect the dots, and you end up with a sphere. Of course, if you're extraordinarily talented, you just throw a block in, take a cut, and you've got a sphere. I'm not that good. However, to help things along, once you have close to a spherical shape, if you will take something that is a true circle, put a piece of sandpaper in here loosely, and rub over the form while it's rotating, it will touch only the high points and will automatically sand to a perfectly spherical shape. And having said all those things, let's throw a block of wood in here and see what we can do about making a sphere. Now, I tend to use just a normal size roughing gouge instead of a half a sword they want tile. Get the tool rest moved in a little closer. I like to stop the lathe when I move the tool rest. Since I didn't sharpen the point, I can't cut with it, so I'll take the extra 30 seconds. And we've got a cylinder. Just mark the length, the same as the diameter. And one thing I better explain, what I'm using to trim this down is what's called a bedan. I am using the French style bedan, which is square edged, but I'm using it in the English fashion, which is with the bevel down.
Upside down, right?
Yeah. What can I say? It's a great tool for removing a lot of wood in a hurry. Now we'll see if we've got it same length as it is diameter. Now all we have to do is find the center point. $340. 50. That ought to get me about center. just as a starting point. I'm going to take these calipers, make a mark in both sides. Joe, does the shop here have a bidet?
No, we do not.
You do now, you have to put a handle on it. And all we're going to do is just connect the dots. Now I've connected the dots. We go to the other points. Make a mark. Make a mark. Now we've got other lines to connect. Same thing all over again, we're just connecting the lines. Now that we've got the lines connected, we're just going to smooth it out. And you can see it start to become spherical. Get in a little closer so we can narrow these ends down. we start to get a spherical shape. Now what I've just attached to the lathe are two, I'm using urethane, but can be pieces of wood, just a cone shape. Make sure they're running true. Don't worry, I got Daniel here to catch it. Yeah, probably would. Safer for you, too.
That's all right. I don't mind.
It's not a shower, that little blood.
I know, that's right. Right,
Sawdust will never come together without
right. That's better.
Did I miss you?
Yeah.
Now, when it rotates, there'll be a shadow. We're just going to turn the shadow away. Take your disc or your bowl, rotate it, turn the shadow away. And as you move it around, to different areas, you end up with a close approximation of a sphere. Having said all those things, I'm hiding that so you can't look at it too close. Let's go ahead and turn a scoop. That's going to constitute a major diameter. It's going to be that long. And then we'll turn the handle and get rid of some of the bulk. You sure? Yeah. All right. Again, we'll just make our marks. Any questions so far? Come on, somebody ask me something. I gotta have my time for my glasses to unfold.
That's a nice melody. Not bad for not being able to see the line. Make our other series of marks.
sorry I missed that.
Picking on me.
Oh, you poor baby. See, we start to approximate a spherical shape. Now we're just going to go in and pick the center points of these flats. And connect those in a nice smooth motion, and we should have a sphere, or close to it. But since Joe hasn't showed me how to use the CBN wheel yet, I'm going to stick to the skew.
You want me to sharpen that for you? Want me to sharpen that for you?
I got a fresh one.
Okay. When you get through, we'll work on the wheel.
piece of paper loose it. Sands off the high points. Now all we have to do is figure out where you want the hole to be. And I'm going to guess it ought to be right there. Could be someplace. It is critical I know the diameter. Because once you know, start to hollow it, if you don't know the diameter, you're going to end up with a funnel.
The same ring in?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a split ring. It does have a sharp edge.
Okay.
Where's my sphere? Oh yeah. Now when you're drilling on the lathe, always hold on to your drill chuck. When you see the chips not coming out, it's past time to have backed it out and cleared the chips. Drilling this hole in here is going to do a couple things for me. Gets rid of that nasty little nub you can never get rid of in the center. And when I get to the bottom of the spot where I've drilled, I've gone far enough. It's time to quit. Don't clear the chips out with your finger because they are hot. Didn't see any drill bit on the back side, so I must have done it about right. Close enough.
Ed, did you make your own ring? Your split ring?
I have made some, yes. Got the originally where I saw it was made by Soren Berger from New Zealand. Stole the idea and made some of my own.
How do you get that rough edge, that sharp edge on there?
Don't deburr it. You cut it on the lathe, don't deburr it. Now you want to know why I don't get hit? The guard.
Keep your hand behind it, bro.
What stays on this side feels good. What goes over there? Accident report.
Get the form, not the sheet. The only thing holding that in is that split ring.
Yes. That's all. We've got the opening the size we want. Y'all didn't really think I was going to hollow it. The reason we drilled the hole is when I'm out here, I can feel where I am. When you get down to the ring, you don't have feel anymore. No shame in stopping the lathe and checking. Anyway, while I set up the next thing, why don't you cut the nub off each end here?
Oh, okay.
It does smell good, doesn't it? It does smell. Not exactly campfire smell. Like a shot smell.
That's good.
Wood burn.
That works. Now we've always got those places that you want to sand or on the lathe. Take a wooden disc.
Thank you.
Soft backing. Velcro. And I've got my own ready-made disc sander.
Is that one piece of Velcro?
Yes.
Where do you get it?
Sanding glove.
From a company called Sanding Glove?
Company called Sanding Glove.
Sport carries it.
Yeah,
Carries the shoes.
You burned the end.
yeah, he burned it.
You didn't tell me not to.
Well, you didn't ask.
Oh,
Nice catch.
yeah, You bet.
Very nice.
Oh, bye. Enjoy.
You do it by hand.
I know what you mean, though. It is pretty close. For that grind, I would almost do it by hand as well.
Yeah, you're going to end up with a cone point on the front.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to do that to you.
Yeah. He's done it for so much. Still, he knows what he's doing.
Mine are just Now I get the
Hey, Jeff. Jeff, where you get that wheel?
This one here we got from D-Way Tools, I think. I got a big rack supply, 1 inch.
yeah.
Does a beautiful job on the screen too. I wish I had that.
For anyone that's interested in pen turning and wanting to either learn more about pen turning or commiserate with other pen turners or find out what happens when things go wrong, or better yet, when things go right, there is a club called the Carolina Piedmont Penturning Group, which meets every other month on the second Thursday, in Indian Land. One of our members has graciously donated his shop's time for us to meet. We have about 25 people, 25 or 30 people on the mailing list. We normally get about 13 to 14 people who come. We have a demonstration each meeting. We've demonstrated finishing techniques for pens. We've demonstrated how to make modified slimline pens. We've demonstrated, I think we've demonstrated how to make acrylic, pour acrylic pens. The next demonstration is going to be on some segmenting, putting different pieces and species of wood together to make an interesting pen, like a herringbone pen, or even just a regular pen with different colored woods throughout it. We also use things like aluminum soda cans to put into pens to offset some of the thing. We turn pens out of alligator bone, jawbone, which some of you have seen. We turn them out of deer antler. We turn them out of, obviously, wood and acrylic. But we also turn them out of PVC. We turn them out of corian. Almost anything that will hold a shape, we can turn a pen out of. It has some kind of density to it that we can turn a pen out. So as I say, we meet every other month on the second Thursday in Indian Land, it's just up by the Lowe's. It's not that far. It's just one of the subdivisions behind the Lowe's where we meet.
Okay, so my name is Daniel Brinneman, and if you're into Twitter, that's my ID up there, Waxhaw NC. and Joe asked me to do a video demonstration. Of course, you've seen me standing around recording the whole day, so hopefully you learned something by just watching me. Lion's Den Designs, I'm into designing websites with WordPress, and Daniel Brinneman is something I just put up. I used to own a domain about 5-10 years ago, and I have it back again. That is my wood turning stuff. So, this is a quote that I found a couple days ago. I actually created this slideshow yesterday and finished it up this morning, but I found this a couple days ago. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work, and the only way to do great work is to love what you do. By Steve Jobs. And the point of saying that is that if you're not passionate about video or wood turning or whatever, then you're going to burn out extremely quickly. So be passionate about what you are doing, otherwise you won't make an effort to put out quality content. Don't stress yourself out. Don't set high expectations until you have experience. What that means is, don't say, I'm going to make this wonderful quality product, and then you're just starting out, so you don't really know how to do that. And then you're like, you know, I told everybody I'm going to do this, but now I can't do it, and then you feel bad about yourself, right? So, if there's no passion, you'll have a burnout soon. The passion is what drives you, so you're not frustrated so often. And then there's the KISS method, keep it simple, silly. Alright, so the professional knows how to use his equipment. The equipment doesn't make the professional. What that means is, if you're a photographer, you can take a cheap camera and make really great photos. It's not the camera that's going to determine how well you take the photos. If you just know the basics of photography and composition, that also applies to video work too. So if you know what to do and you read up on it and learn how to get better, then you'll get better. Yeah. Sorry, I can't see anything. Now I can see you guys. And buying expensive equipment won't make you a better videographer. So buying expensive software, some friend tells you, well, you got to get Final Cut Pro, you got to get Adobe Premiere Pro in order to come out with really quality videos. Well, that's not true, because you can do something with some simple tool, you know, and it'll come up really good. You just know, you have to learn methods and you have to experience yourself how to do it right. So, first section, preparing how to record, or preparing to record the equipment. Now, I just grabbed some pictures off the web here. Some of these products, one of them is the tripod there. It is owned by Dave McKeithen, who was in here earlier with Joan. I really like that tripod, and we'll talk about it why. Here's a setup. So if you're looking for that HDMI to RCA connector, there's a link right under it. What you need are cables, adapters, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, and you can see some of that laying on the ground right now. And then you need a camera, a video camera. It shouldn't be a DSLR, because a DSLR is built for photography. It's not built for videography. And the reason is that it might limit you to 15 minutes per recording session, or it might not have a good zoom in, zoom out kind of thing. And a tripod, it should have a quick release on it. We'll talk about that. And adjustable. And, you know, the point is you don't want to stand there all the time. And I do, because I want to make sure. I've learned after editing video what I want to look for while I'm capturing the video. When you're first starting off, you might just hit record and sit down, and then you don't worry about it. Or you might have one of these cheap tripods where you're, you know, adjusting the thing, and then when you go back to edit, you're like, I can't use any of that because it's all jerky everywhere. And video stabilization that makes it all smooth when you come along doesn't help you a lot, because all you see is this, and then you know. So You might see that in some of my shops because that's the only thing I have left to deal with, to work with. HDMI might be a good thing to go to instead of staying with RCA connectors. RCA ones are the colored ones, and HDMI is more the newest technology these days, so it combines the audio and the video
Cable
together.
length issues with HDMI?
I don't think so. Maybe 100 feet or less. USB probably, because there's a voltage drop. So this is a video camera I picked out for you guys. It's roughly $400 on JVC. You can look for other things if you want, but there are some particular things you should look for. This one's waterproof and dustproof and all that stuff, and that might be good if you're in a shop with a lot of dust in it. And there's also a link down there if you want to go to it. So what's important here, sound quality. I basically copy and pasted the specs, and then I cut out a lot of stuff that wasn't really important to me. Zoom microphone's good. You know, if you're pointing at your subject, that's what it's going to pick up. Audio wing cut, if you're outside, and it's going to cut that down so you don't hear all that sound. HDMI output, USB, AV out's what that cable's going out. And SDXC is card slide is just a SD card for backup memory. Most of the time, you want to kind of get a video camera that you can record directly to the hard drive. It's got a built-in hard drive, which is what this is doing. And I'm not recording to the SD memory card. I'm actually recording to the hard drive.
Do they have solid state hard drives in these yet?
Yeah, that's what that is.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Alright, and touchscreen's not really important, as long as you got some way to adjust the menus and whatever. Battery hour is good, how long it lasts, you know. Most demos last an hour and a half. This one's lasted all day, so I have the ability to plug in a power source while it's recording. Time-lapse is not so important, really, unless you're into editing while you're on the video and recording, and not doing it while you're doing something else. When they say easy upload to YouTube, Facebook, HD compatible, works with iMovie, Final Cut Pro, that means it's putting out some compatible file that you can work with. And then it says full HD 1920 by 1080. It's saying 1080p at 60 frames per second is the output. But most of the time when you record, you'll only need 720p progressive at the max, and about 30 frames per second at the max. And the reason is, if you get at 1080, the video looks sort of grainy. It depends if it's whether it's a P or I, 1080p or I. I think it's I that gets grainy. And 720p, also 1080p, also will be probably when you output at least a half hour to an hour of video file, it's going to be about 2 gigs large. Whereas if you have output of 720 for an hour, you're going to get about 1 gig to 500 megabytes large. That's reverse, but. And then you want to have a good zoom. So you want to have a mechanical zoom versus a digital zoom camera. So the more mechanical zoom you have, the better. Because what's happening is the mechanical part is using lenses, whereas the digital zoom is actually taking an image as if you're on your computer, and as you do Control+++, it's basically just blowing it up and it's messing up with the pixels. Okay, the aperture just has to do with light. And then they're saying here 40x optical zoom and 60x dynamic zoom. So the dynamic would be where the picture gets blown up, and the optical would be the lenses. Alright, so when you get a tripod, you want to make sure it has a quick release unit on it. You can do...
Daniel, back up just a bit.
Yeah,
What
okay.
is a recommendation on the file spec for the format in which the videos are being saved? Is that important? Like an MP4?
I will
version?
cover that.
Oh, you will?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just
Sorry.
breaking it down.
Okay, sorry.
So when you get a tripod, you want to make sure it's got a smooth action on it. Now I won't take that thing apart, but I'll explain it to you. A good handle coming out so you can quickly adjust up and down really smoothly. So when you go to buy it, make sure it can very smoothly go up and down, not jerk, 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 you know, up, 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 you know, like that. And then also you want to make it pan left and right really smoothly. And a quick release allows you to, once you have the camera attached to it, you can loosen it up while it's still recording or not recording, and quickly come off with it and walk somewhere else with it and record. And if you're holding a camera, say this is your camera, if you're holding and recording it, you don't want to record like this, because all of a sudden it's going to shake a while. And I'm talking about before it came in, video stabilization came in, where it automatically fixes that and you get the smooth motion. And what it does is, if this is your frame, and then this is your subject moving into it, and this is your frame jumping, what it does is it crops off where the jumping is happening, and it gives you a still image. So when you're recording by yourself without the tripod, you want to lean against something like a wall, so you become a tripod, and then you want to put your elbows into your chest and just control it so you don't shake as much. Alright, TV monitor. So y'all just bought a nice one. Flat screen because it's lightweight, easy to carry. RCA outputs, that's the colorful ones. And HDMI inputs, that's good. Wi-Fi connectivity, that's great. You know, if you want to connect to the webs or do something like we're doing right now, sharing the screen without the wires. Can it be on a stand? Can you mount it on a wall? Where do you want to mount it, you know? And it also has a USB connector on it, so that's something else. So recording, smooth and graceful operator. I was going to put, he's a smooth operator, but I didn't think I was appropriate. But what it is when you're recording video and you're not, whether you're on a tripod or whether you're walking around with it, after you've had more experience video editing, you'll think more about these things, and you'll always be on your mind, and you can't pay attention the most to what's going on in the demo. You're always concerned about the technicality of it. So, and then also you want to make sure that you're looking around you. When you set up your equipment, see where you put your equipment, so you don't fall over it while you're recording, or you don't stumble, or you know where all the chairs are being sat, at least, so you can keep yourself away from it. And it's I don't know if it's like hunting or what, but it's like you got to keep a smooth course, so that the video comes out good. So here it is. Know your area. Be aware where you put the wires. Where are the people sitting? Which ones like to get up the most? Who likes to sit all the time? Just know who's around you, and then, just those kind of things. And where to move the tripod, and then always safety first. It's your life's more important than the whole shebang. Anticipate the moment. Don't zoom in and out a lot. I had to, because hindsight, later it tells you, okay, you should tell everybody, okay, when you get to a particular spot with your work, and I just glued something or whatever, you should stay there. And that, like that. Because the guy's trying to zoom in on your work and get a good zoom, and it takes at least 10 seconds for it to have a good zoom. So if he knows that he can put it right here all the time, and he can zoom into this spot all the time, then he's going to get a good shot. But if you're moving all the time, that's where you have to zoom out quite a bit, because this guy likes to talk with his hands, and you can't control that, And then here's something new I've learned. If you're recording somebody, you record them. What you do is you wait 5 seconds. You think 5 seconds in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit record, or you're still recording actually. Start over here. Record, wait 5 seconds, and then let him start. And then if you want to move to something else, or zoom in or zoom out, you want to zoom in, wait 5 seconds, let it record 10 or so seconds, and then wait another 5 seconds before you zoom back out again. Now, in the case where he was moving a lot, I couldn't do that very often. And the purpose of that is those 5 seconds determine where you're going to cut the video in the video editor. So I'm planning out my video edits, right? So I'm thinking I've got 3 video files now. I've got one that I'm really focused on ed, and then I know what I'm going to title, and then I've got some close-in shots, and then I even captured it on my mobile phone when I was standing over there, so I can get 2 cuts. And some pictures, if I want to put some pictures in, but we'll talk about that later. So I walked stealthily. You know, when you learned how to walk in the woods while you're hunting the old squirrels and stuff before they had guns, you just walk and relax your feet. But you also want to, basically you're rolling your feet. So you're stalking your prey. But that's what you're doing when you're recording videos. You don't, when they walk around in movies, they have these big chest packs with the stand, and it's holding it like this, the camera, but it's bouncing, so you don't see it in the shot, but they're actually running behind the guy with it steadying it. I don't know what the technical term is there for it, but basically they're trying to get the shots as smooth as possible.
Yeah, somebody got an Academy Award for that about 10, 15 years ago. It's based on gyroscopic action.
Steadicam.
Yeah, that's it.
Steadicam.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what you're trying to do. And when you don't have a steady cam, you have to improvise on how you walk. And then you have to think about, okay, if I fall that way, do I have somewhere to put my foot? You know, that kind of thing. So if there I'm doing a zoom out, and then I'm thinking, okay, I want to go in. Because that thing doesn't have a zoom on the phone, so I have to think about, how do I want the shot? I want to go in, okay, what's the next thing? I want to come back out like this. All right, and then ask your guy or the woman what they're going to do in the demo. How they're going to cut it, what they're planning to do, how they're planning to stand, so you know where to put the camera. Okay, and here, notify your demonstrator what you want for the next shot. So find a good place to contrast the subject with the background. Some cameras can't focus without a solid object nearby. That was I was doing that with the camera a little bit. When you get close to, you zoom in, and the thing's spinning, you got to kind of focus the center point of that shot on the tool rest or on their arm, so something is in focus while that thing's turning. So that way, this might get a little bit more focus on it. And some cameras have a manual zoom adjustments, and others have automatic. The thing about automatic is you get real close where you want it, and all of a sudden it's trying to adjust and focus because it's based on, you know, what I was saying, focusing on the solid, the stationary part versus the moving object. So you're trying to prevent it from constantly adjusting the focus. So that's where manual is just, wherever you put the zoom, that's where it's going to go. And then here I'm instructing the demonstrator to wait, not move, then grab 8 to 10 seconds, 5 before and after, then allow him to continue, and allow him to talk afterwards too. So that way I know, okay, I can cut here, cut there, and I know when I cut it, I'm going to have everything he said. Alright, editing, also known as post-production. I'm flying by this. If you guys want more technical things, more than this, then you can ask me later. Or afterwards.
Fly by.
Okay. Keep in mind, and I'm taking this from the most zoomed out shot down to the finer details. So you know, okay, these are the steps that I have to think about when I'm looking for my tools and equipment, software and all that. Because you got to determine these specific orders in order to get the right stuff. So you need to know the video file type, the conversion, computer operating system, whether it's Windows, Macintosh, or a Linux computer, type of editing software, computer hard drive space, and external backups. Video file types. MP4. Always try to convert video files to this format because it's cross-platform compatible. You know how these sites you go to, like YouTube, it always works? That's because they're looking at your device, they're looking at your computer, which video file can they serve up. If you host your own website, you'll run into this. You'll have to create 4 different files just to service everyone. That's why most people just put their video on YouTube or Vimeo, because it automatically does that for them. But if you want to be cool across different devices and different computers and platforms and people who don't allow flash, like Apple devices, then you want MP4 files. So whether you back up your files later at the end of the day, or you keep on your computer, or you switch operating systems, MP4 is always going to work. So MOI comes out of that video camera, and I use a program called Miro that's free. I like free stuff. I don't like spending money. That doesn't mean I prioritize software. That means it's free. And the way I learned about free software is I went through using Ubuntu Linux operating system, which is a completely free operating system. And if you want more help with that, I'll tell you later. And ABCHD comes out as an MTS file or M2TS file, and you also have to convert that to MP4 before you can edit. We're converting to MP4 so we can actually edit the file. So we can actually put it in our video editor to edit. And I use Handbrake, which is also Handbrake. Miro is a Windows and a Macintosh program that's free. Handbrake works on every operating system. It's open source is what Handbrake is. So some pictures, conversion. Always look for free open source option first before spending money. If you're not sure, send me an email. Handbrake, that's the website. So when you go to slides later, you can click on the link and it'll work. And Handbrake's what the picture above it is, the gray out one.
Is the site in French?
No, it's just got a French domain.
Okay.
You can go to French if you want to. And Miro Video Editor, there's also Converter, there's a screenshot there, you just drag and drop your files. The difference between Handbrake and Miro, Handbrake does a lot of things. For Miro, you can drag and drop several different files into one and then run a queue on it. Whereas Handbrake, you have to do one at a time, adding to the queue and then hit start, convert. It's a line, it's French for a line, make a line. So, you have Windows, you have Ubuntu, and that's the latest design actually, and then you have the Mac OS system. So these are, figuring out which operating system you have determines what kind of video editing software you can use. Editing software for Windows. Now I went from free to expensive. Windows Movie Maker now comes with Windows Live Essentials. You have to install Windows Live Essentials. Sometimes it comes on Windows 7 or Windows 8 already, and sometimes it's bloated software with lots of extra things you don't need. So if your computer's slow, I can also fix computers. Any of these operating systems I'm talking about. NCHD VideoPad Video Editor is also another one out there that's $69.95. I'll show you later how these are all very similar. Adobe Premiere Elements, you have one license, so you purchase one copy license. You buy it and download it from online. There's no CD. It comes from Adobe. And it's good for Windows or Mac compatible. So for $100, $99.99, you can buy the software, and there's a link there to go straight to the website and buy it. And so if you download it and use it on Windows, when you switch to Macintosh, or you switch both ways, whichever, I think most people will go Windows and Mac and they don't come back. But you can go up there, get your license, and you can download, you can sign your account on Adobe, you can re-download a copy just for Mac that only works on Mac. And then you can put in that same license and it'll work on both.
Is that what used to be called Photoshop Elements?
No, Photoshop Elements is a different program. This is Adobe. These are kind of like brother-sister programs. So when they sell it to you, they're going to try and sell you both Adobe Premiere Elements 12, which is the latest one, or Adobe Photoshop Elements 12. All you need is Premiere Elements. That's a video editing product. And Adobe Premiere Pro is for professionals. People who want to get in the nitty-gritty of how to do a cross dissolve or how to do a tracking motion thing. If you're all about nitty-gritty and getting down to the finest detail how you want to control everything, then you want to go Pro. If you're like, well, I just want to drag and drop elements, then you want to go Premiere Elements. Because Premiere Elements and Pro, Premiere Elements will give you little packaged little programs and you drag and drop on top of your video files and you get it done real quick. Whereas Adobe Premiere Pro, you have to figure out how to create those little packages and apply to your video and all that. It's like you got to read the manual, whereas Pro, they got a ton of videos you can watch. Of course, Pro's got the same thing too. But that's $800 at CS6, and CS6 was the Creative Suite 6 was the last release of the physical software they gave you that you can either download or you can buy a CD for. But now you can pay $50 a month and get Creative Cloud, and then you can do your video editing online.
Is that plus the $799?
No. Creative Cloud
It's just
is all the programs online. If you're always in the cloud, always on the internet, $50 a month. Whereas this is physical software that's on your computer, and when you buy it, you're stuck with either Mac or you're stuck with Windows.
And then 6 months later, they update it and you have to pay again.
Oh, they won't update anymore. Creative Cloud is the next thing. CS6, when it's gone, it's gone. They're not going back to software again. Editing software for Mac. So iMovie is free. Apple makes iMovie. You can't get it on a Windows computer. NCH is also made for Mac. Premiere Elements for Mac. Premiere Pro for Mac. Of course, if you buy it for a Mac, you can't use it on Windows. And then Final Cut Pro X is made by Apple. That's at $300. And you can download that from the App Store. And the fun thing about the App Store is if you have up to 5 or 10 computers, you can use that same software across 5 computers. You can use it across all those computers, no problem. You don't have to buy again. So if you lose your operating system, you have to reinstall. You just sign into there with your account. As long as you don't change your emails, you can sign into your account and you get your software all back that you bought. Ubuntu, Linux, free operating system, free word processing suite. This is for folks that are maybe techie, non-techie also. Ubuntu makes it real easy for non-techie people to get into it. You don't have to figure out what to do in the command line to fix it. It's all very GUI. It's graphical user interface just like Windows and Mac. As soon as you put the disk in, everything is completely free on that disk. It's got everything you ever wanted on that disk. So the downside of links maybe would be that you can't run, there's ways of getting around it, but you can't run proprietary software like Adobe, Photoshop, Adobe InDesign, these kind of things. If you're in design and you got to have that, either stick with Windows or stick with Mac. But if you're a work person or a semi-creative, there are free open source creative programs out there you can use that will do the same as InDesign. But if you're not working with print designers, you're not working with a print shop, you're fine going with it on your own. It'll do just about the same or more. So free, I've used this, free Kdenlive. It's just as good as, what is that one that starts with a C out there? Never mind. It's as good as Adobe Premiere Pro. It's as good as that, but it's completely free. Okay, OpenShot is a little simpler, but sometimes has glitches, but they're getting around to that, they're fixing it. Lightworks just came out recently, about a year or two ago. Lightworks is free as long as you're only uploading to YouTube. It's been used by Hollywood in like The King's Speech. They made a movie with it. There's a few, if you clicked on that, used by Hollywood, when you're in the slides, it'll show you the rest of the movies they made it with. Works on Windows and Mac. Mac's in beta right now. Windows and Linux it works on. So, video editor for the simplest of edits. So if you don't have any fine grain detail that you have to do, like he's messed up a word, or there's a shadow I want to take out, or something like that, that's really in there and you got to get real down to milliseconds. If it's just like cut, you know, and put it into cross dissolve, then you can use the online video editor for YouTube. And basically what I do is I export all my videos from my camera, change them to MP4, upload them all to the YouTube account as unlisted. Basically, anyone with that link can see it. If public, everyone can see it. Unlisted means you have to have the link to see the video, and private means no one can see it unless you're in a special circle now with Google+. And then I have a video link down here that will cover everything about the video editor and then some. So if you want to watch it later. Free audio for your videos. Well, let's see. I probably would not put a background noise in there unless it was music. When you're recording your video, sometimes you'll think, well, I need to talk here and say this. But it'd be better if you could do a mic over, a voiceover later. So you just record what you're doing, real quiet, silent, just the sound of the lathe, and then when you come back with Premiere Elements 12, you can do a voiceover and you record your mic right over top and tell you, okay, this is what I was doing. If you guys watch Carl Jacobson or some of the YouTube woodturners, they always talk over their video. That's because they can record a long segment, cut out what they want and don't want, and then they can talk over portions they want to explain, and then they can speed up the video without the chipmunk sound in the background. You know, so audio, YouTube provides free Creative Commons audio. Creative Commons means that an artist makes an audio or the video or whatever, and they put a license on it, but it's more of a license that tells you what you can do with that audio. Whether it's free and share alike, or you can only do this and you have to attribute to the author what you did, etc. But having Creative Commons audio on your video means that you can actually make money on your videos on YouTube. Whereas if it's copyrighted, you got to make a note about it and say you paid for it. But sometimes that's not always true because there's these robots there on YouTube that will say, well, that's my music and I'm going to claim it, and then you don't make any more money on it. So it'd be better if you make your own music or your own mixes. Or don't use any at all and just use the background sound. And if you record at a concert, they'll pick up the sound in the background and say that's our audio, you know, so you don't gain in there. You can go to the video library, youtube.com/audio library. You can download any of this audio. You can use it in Premiere Elements as background sound. This is a video editor. This is what most every video editor looks like. It's not that complicated. I mean, it is when you first tackle it, but if you look at a block diagram, it's not that complicated. So if you guys were told, okay, you got to get Final Cut Pro because, you know, it's got some tools and can do real fancy things for you, it's going to be more complicated to look at it if you don't know what your general layout is. So on the far left, you got the project files. That's basically your assets, you know, the files that you just converted that you're going to pull in to what's called the timeline on the bottom. The timeline is where you do all your work. That's where you do your cutting and your pasting and your cross dissolve, your titles and all that kind of stuff. Effects, that's extra. That's like cross dissolve, that's like transition or audio transition. So a viewer is not really seen a lot in most editors. It's just their extra. It's like a monitor. It's like a video monitor. Both the viewer and the canvas are like video monitors. Like this is a monitor to tell you guys what you're looking at. So a viewer is like, I want to preview what's in my project library. And a canvas is like, what's the output going to look like when I'm done? And audio levels, that's fancy stuff. Most of the time it's already controlled for you in these cheaper tools. And you can adjust it if you want to tweak certain layers, or you want to mute audio in a certain area and you don't, you know, so like someone make it, like the fire alarm went off and you want to cut that out, you know, so it's real quiet in an area. And okay, so that's basically the layout. So starting with a freebie online editor, we've got the same layout. We've got the big black screen, which is our output, final output. Then we've got our selections. We've got we've got a video selection from our uploaded account, all our private and public and unlisted videos. And then the next tab over is Creative Commons audio. No, Creative Commons videos. So if you are looking for the beach waves coming in, or you're looking for a flag that's going like this, you know, or whatever, you can find it in there and you can use it, and there's no copyright violations going on. Next thing is pictures. You can put in pictures from either your Google Plus accounts or Picasso web albums, or you can upload your own. And in my video about this editor, there's an additional thing when you go to upload videos that you can create slideshows from images. And I recommend creating slideshows without audio. That way you can add it in later. Next thing is audio, so that's going to pull in from the audio library I was telling you about. Next one is cross-dissolve, transitions and stuff. So when you go from a title to the video, you know, like black, and then all of a sudden a video. It's like black and it fades into the video. And the last one is titles. And then up there, what's cool about this, down at the bottom you got the video, but what I don't like about this one is you can only put in one audio file for a certain length, and then you got to add the next one. You can't crop it or whatever you want to do with the audio file. Okay. And then the project up in the top left-hand corner, you can name it something or you can leave it, whichever you want to do. And then what happens is I've discovered working with this, I can be working on one laptop, and if it loses internet, it's automatically saved all my work. And I can go to a different computer and log into my same account, and it'll have my project still there. And I can actually, in the drop-down here, where it says project and the drop-down next to the name, you can go back to videos you've already published and remix it into something new you want to create. So you don't have to do all that extra work. And then you give it a name and you publish it. If I've uploaded a file that's called, well, what I do is I give it a naming convention, which means I start off with what number it is. Okay, so it's maybe the 5th video. And then what's it about? So I put a hyphen in between the name and whatever. And then who is demonstrator, and then what's the date? Well, if this is going to overwrite that one, I'm going to do a -1 on my project name, or -2 or whatever. And that way I have 2 separate files. This is Kdenlive Layout. This is a free Linux program. It's got the same layout. You got your assets over here on the left, and then you've got your effects list in the middle, and you've got the project monitor there on the right. That's kind of like what the output is, the finished project. You can see tabs on the bottom. You can switch between the clip monitor and the record monitor. Clip is what you're looking at in the assets, and record is if you're using this editor and you're doing something with the video camera, and it's actually live recording something in, and you can pull stuff into it. And then you've got all this gibberish on the bottom in the timeline. Each line, usually the audio is either on the bottom or the top, one or the other. You can move them around actually, but all this stuff on the bottom, the 2 lines, are video clips. So you can fade videos over top each other and all that. And then all the way to the right is the history, so you can actually go back and undo certain things or go forward some. So that's Kdenlive. This is iMovie, only works on the Mac. Same general concept. You got the project library on the top left-hand corner, and you can flip that around in place of the timeline. You've got the timeline on the bottom there. I think that's right. And then you got the event library on the left, so it's just a library of, what it does is iMovie will actually copy in your video files, so you end up using more space on your computer. And it'll convert to a certain size video frame box that it wants to work with. And then the top right is your project monitor. Premiere Elements, this is the software I recommend if you're on Windows or Mac. Same thing. So I'm not going to keep on responding here. But same simple thing, and it's a lot easier. If you're brand new to editing audio, videos, I'd recommend this software. If Carl Jacobson can learn it, you know, you guys can learn it too. This is Premiere Pro. This is the Windows version. It's just got a different wrap around the outside. It's the same thing to the far left, assets, the MTS files you see there. Down below it, effects. To the right a little bit, video effects. You know, they have audio versus video effects. An audio effect would be like, a video effect would be like you want to make it look like old school film grain or whatever. And then to the right is your project monitor. Below it is your tools for scrubbing, for moving along in the video. And then below that is the timeline. So, internal space and memory on a computer. You want to have the newest computer hardware. If you have old, it's going to go slow. It'll be like that internet access back on 56K. 300 gig hard drive or larger. I mean, you can start with 150, but I recommend 300 gig or larger. That's what they usually sell these days. 4 gigs to 8 gigs of memory. It's going to take a lot of RAM to do video editing. Because if you're doing, I hate iMovie right now, because some reason it backs up logs or whatever, or glitches or whatever. And that's the reason I switched to YouTube Video Editor, is because there are a lot of things I just needed to do simply. And I really didn't need to do that fine-grained editing. I didn't need that picture-in-picture shot that Carl Jacobs does, where you see him turning here, but then he's got one that's real close, you know, over there. I didn't need all that. I just needed something simple. I needed a simple title, black background. You can change the color of the background and the title. You know, the thing is, get creative. If you've got a video that needs to be this big in reality, you know, then I would say get an image this big, and then bring it down proportionally into your video editor so it's high quality picture, and then make a little short snippet, intro title or whatever, and then you upload that to YouTube. Or you can use Keynote on your Mac. It's a presentation software. You can use that. You make a little short slideshow to be your title intro, and then upload that make it into a video online, or you can export it from Keynote as a movie file and convert that to MP4 with those tools, and then upload that. And every time you create an edit, put that in as a beginning piece. Put it cross dissolve next to the videos that you're editing, and then the ending part. Mac OS is for creatives. A lot of people who are in design get a Mac because they don't have to worry about viruses anymore. Now Linux, you don't have to worry about viruses, but it's not very friendly for people who are in the printing and printing industry. If they're web designers, all they do is code, so it doesn't matter. Windows is for workers, you know, get things done, but then you have to deal with all the viruses. And Ubuntu gives you the best of both worlds if you're not so focused on specific Adobe products, like I have to have Adobe to do it, you know, that kind of thing. And it's always free and secure. Internal, external backups. You need to have an external hard drive just for backing up your files related to video editing, 500 gigs to 2 terabytes large. If you've got an external drive, some of these 2 terabyte drives, like from Western Digital and Seagate, they'll give you the option of doing a RAID setup. And RAID allows you to take 2 built-in hard drives that are total of 2 terabytes. You end up getting 1 terabyte, but the thing is, when you external back up your files, it leaves a copy of that file twice on 2 separate hard drives. So that if one fails, you still have all your files. And if you have a Macintosh, it has a specific way of saving files. It's called journaling, whereas you couldn't access that on a Windows computer because Windows saves as NTFS or FAT32 format. So it's 2 separate formatting. So if you want to go between, you got to get a hard drive that will work on Mac all the time, and you can still access it from Windows, or it works for Windows. But when you save your files, just the files you don't back up, then the Mac can still read it. So you got to look for one that says it's compatible with both. But if you're always on a Mac, you're always on Windows. If you're on Linux, Windows and Linux hard drives work fine together because it's both the same stuff. Don't rely on CDs, DVDs. I have some DVDs at the house that are master files that have never been touched after they've been recorded. The thing is, they're so scratched so badly, you'd have to go out and invest in a something that carves a new layer on it in order to get it off, and I don't want to invest. So that's why I back up, and then I back up online. And if you don't like your videos going public, you can make them all private. But at least you have a backup. You know, you're using someone's free hard drive space. And you have to verify your account on YouTube with a phone number to say you can allow go past 15 minutes of recording time on your videos. So make sure you verify it before you go and upload an hour-long video, because they'll reject it if it's not verified. Publishing. DVDs or YouTube. Pros about DVDs. You get additional backup, they're playable, and they're portable. And the cons are easily scratched, duds, or dead upon delivery. Limited playing to DVD devices, so you can't go with your mobile device on it. You create the DVD menu each time, so you actually either you get a software that can burn you a DVD menu that will allow the DVD to start up on Windows and Mac. Because the thing is, if you make it auto-run on Windows, it won't auto-run on a Mac unless you got special toaster software. And then the DVD menu, you know, it's sometimes people want to just, what I do is I just slap the audio, I slap the video directly on the DVD, and then I provide something like VLC Media Player that plays any video file together in the same disc. That way, if their computer can't support MP4 file, there's a free downloadable product right there on the disc they can install their computer and make it work. YouTube or Vimeo, which one should you go with? YouTube provides unlimited space for high definition videos. Vimeo is limited, so maybe you get a high definition video every month. You get to upload one, or every week, something like that. And then you spend more money on Pro. YouTube is more popular than Vimeo. Vimeo is more for creatives, and YouTube is more, you know, everyone uses YouTube, right? But Vimeo is for folks that are into making weddings, and they're into doing stuff like Red Bull competitions, and they want to get that crisp, pristine, you know, video stuff. And you're going to get more views on YouTube than you would on Vimeo, because there's more of a community type existence on YouTube. And then also videos on YouTube can be public, unlisted, or private. Alright. So, back up everything. Don't depend just on YouTube. Don't depend just on DVDs. Have an additional backup. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as I say. So, back up everything. You never know when your computer's going to go bust on you. And then you won't know how to get your files back, and some technician will say, well, I know how to do that. And then he goes and erases everything for you. And you're like, oh, no. Here goes all my family photos for the last 5 years. Any questions?
Can we get a copy of the presentation?
Yeah, it's online.
It's online? Okay.
Alright, it's right there, that link.
Okay. Let me write it down. On the bottom.
Yeah, the very bottom.
Okay.
So you're going to type in bit.ly /SCW, so Sun City Workshop, the initials of that, video. All one word.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Folks, that's it.
Yeah.
We exactly zapped our agenda.